Good evening and welcome to Talking Sports with Evan. I'm Evan with Tallison, and this is Talking Sports with Evan, as I just mentioned. And thank you so much for those tuning in live on X, YouTube, or Facebook. You can find the show every week on Facebook at Talking Sports with Evan, same as on YouTube, and you can find it on X at Evan with Sports. Appreciate you all tuning in and watching the show and listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Please subscribe to one of those channels. Give me a nice review. Would love to grow that audience as well. Podcast version of the show will be made available first thing tomorrow morning. And again, you can find that on Spotify or on iTunes. Or on Substack with Sports Thoughts from Evan on Substack. Took last week off. Back again this week, and a few things I want to discuss and talk about, and you're welcome to comment on the X video, comment on Facebook, comment on YouTube. If you have any comments or thoughts or observations on anything I'm talking about, feel free to send them my way. Send your opinion my way. I would greatly appreciate that. I was a little nervous doing this week's show. Again, last week I took off. I just couldn't fit into my schedule. The week prior, 2 weeks ago, was the last Talking Sports with Evan. And the main topic that I talked about is what is wrong with the Milwaukee Brewers. Fast forward 2 weeks, the Milwaukee Brewers are red hot. And the thing that had me nervous about doing this week's episode was 2 weeks ago, talked about what's wrong with them, and they get hot. Now, my question is now that I'm talking about them being red hot, am I going to do the opposite effect? Am I going to make them struggle again? But, I'm not a big jinx guy anyway, so I'm going to talk about the Brewers anyways. I love talking Wisconsin sports, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Also going to talk some Green Bay Packers and OTAs and Jair Alexander and Jordan Love. Some hot topics have been coming out recently about him and if Jordan Love regressed or not in 2025 or 2024 and all the different metrics people are using to fit their argument one way or the other. And I'm going to kind of give my thought on that topic too. And WWE Money in the Bank is this coming Saturday. I won't be able to watch it live due to a Racine Raider game that I will be part of the broadcast team. But Money in the Bank is coming up. And I have some thoughts and concerns coming into Money in the Bank and just what WWE is currently doing in general. So, first things first, talk about one of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball. Had an 8-game winning streak until yesterday that was snapped. Won again today. They won 5-1 on the road trip, and that team is the Milwaukee Brewers. And the question is, how are they doing it? And 2 weeks ago when I was talking about the Brewers, talking about how their defense hasn't been as good, their players are not playing up to par like your Christian Yelich's. Talked about a lot of different things on what's contributing to the Brewers struggling so much through the first couple months, first half of May, since the beginning of the season to the first half of May. Fast forward 2 weeks later, red hot. And what's changed since then? Well, Christian Yelich just got National League Player of the Week from last week. He hit another home run against the Reds this week. He's got a bunch of base hits. Jackson Chourio had multiple base hits, I believe, on every game on the road trip. And I know he didn't walk, whatever. But he had multiple base hits, and I think almost all, if not all, the games on this road trip. Joey Ortiz is coming up in big spots. Caleb Durbin looks comfortable now with the bat in his hand. Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick. The Brewers are getting production offensively now. They had a 17-7 win over the weekend against the Phillies in game 2 of their 3-game sweep. And the bats definitely came alive there. And the Brewers, they own the Cincinnati Reds. I guess there's no other way to put it. I apologize to any Cincinnati Reds fans watching this show, but ultimately the Brewers own the Cincinnati Reds. They are outstanding with the Reds. I think they've won 22 of their last 23 series or something like that. And the Brewers just dominate the Reds. And it was a great road trip for the Brewers. And starting pitching and bullpen were also a key thing. Now, when I was talking about the struggling and the last week before they got red hot, the concern is that the bullpen was being overworked. The high leverage arms are being overworked. And it's because they weren't winning enough games or losing enough games in blowout fashion. And now most of the wins that they've had over the course of the last week have been in blowout fashion. And I like what I'm seeing with the Brewers. And the defensive side, much improved overall. Jackson Cheerio looks a lot more comfortable in center field. Sel Frelick is a Gold Glove right fielder. The combination of Isaac Collins and Daz Cameron has looked pretty good in left field. And Joey Ortiz has looked much more comfortable on both defense and offense. And Caleb Durbin, got to tip your hat to him. He has been much better as of late. And one shout out I do want to give is a colleague of mine for 620 WTMJ, Dominic Catronio. He shared a video from Brewers Weekly from a week ago, and you can find that at Dom_Catronio, COTRONEO. You can find the video there if you look through his feed. But he talked about Caleb Durbin and had the infield coach on the show. You can also find it on Brew All Access as well. Brewers All Access, anywhere you get your podcast. And he'll talk about it. He talked about it on that show last week's Brewers Weekly, and talked about just what Caleb Durbin is doing. Find it from May 31st. He talked with Matt Erickson, the infield coach of the Brewers, and talked just about how good Caleb Durbin has been defensively as of late. And his bat's starting to come alive a little bit. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the young guys are getting comfortable. The young guys have been a big reason why the Brewers have been streaky. When the young guys are playing well, the Brewers are humming away. When especially, your Cheerios and your Terang and your Freelicks, and now you've got Christian Yelich playing extremely well. And another topic that Dom talked about in Brewers Extra Innings multiple times over the last week is when you have Christian Yelich hitting the baseball as good as Christian Yelich has been hitting the baseball as of late, you are going to pitch to everybody else differently, and it just helps the Brewers offense overall. But here's the thing with baseball. Everything is sunshine and rainbows right now for the Milwaukee Brewers, but baseball is a roller coaster of a sport. We can easily be talking next week, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. It's just how baseball works. But fortunately, they're red hot right now. They return home starting on Friday against the Padres, and things are looking up. And the other area for the Brewers that I'm really impressed with recently is Quinn Priester, especially with the opener route with DL Hall. That combination has looked very good. Chad Patrick has continued to look good. Freddie Peralta could throw less pitches, but overall, he's having a strong year. Jose Quintana just came back from injury, and he battled on Sunday. He settled down later in that game. Guys are just stepping up for the Brewers. And with the with the wins that are coming recently, like today, winning 9-1, you don't have to use your high leverage arms, your Abner Uribe, your Trevor McGill. So they're fresher going into the weekend series. They did have to use them in game one against the Reds. It used some leverage guys yesterday, but overall they've not had to use them as frequently because you're starting to win convincingly, which ultimately helps the bullpen overall. I do think Abner Uribe, to me, is the long-term closer option for the Brewers. I think he'll eventually take over that role, but right now I think he's in a great position where he's kind of that you need some outs. Let's put him out there. Same with Nick Mears, who did pitch today. I guess he needed some work, but he was a guy who I think's arm was about to fall off with the way the Brewers were using him as of late. But I'm very impressed with what the Brewers are doing. I'm very happy with the bats, and they're taking pitches and they're working walks. They're getting base hits. They're hitting with runners in scoring position overall this past week. And I hope it continues, but I am a realist. I know it may not continue, but I'm enjoying the fun and the summer of excitement and fun while it's lasting right now. And I do think the Brewers are better than what we have seen up till this point or before this hot streak. I think I'm not saying they're the team that beat the Phillies 17-7 on Saturday. I'm not saying that is who the Brewers are. What I'm saying is I think they're closer to what we've seen over this winning stretch, this 5-1 road trip, where they won 8 in a row and whatnot. I think that's closer to who they are than what we saw a few weeks back. And I know there's some on social media. One guy username is Brooks something or another, who just likes to be negative about everything he could possibly think of being negative about. And I'm not one typically looking to be the fan please, but I just don't understand how you call yourself a fan of a team and you spend most of the season bashing the team every chance you get, like this Brooks guy does on X, like some guy unfollowed recently on X, Jake something, he does the same. It's like we can't just be, and I love social media because it gives me the platform to do this. It gives everybody a platform to give their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions on things. But it's also a bad thing that everyone gets the opportunity to give their thoughts and their feelings on everything. And you can go on any Brewer Facebook group during the week and you see it there constantly. Mr. and Mrs. Negativity all over the place. And like I said, I don't mean to fan please and you fan how you want to fan. It baffles my mind how some people can just call themselves fans of a team and you can't say anything positive whatsoever about anything that they do. They're beating the Phillies 17-1 at one point, and it's, hey, don't get too happy or don't get too worked up. The Brewers do stink. This is just whatever. They stink. Like, come on, just enjoy the win. You don't need to piss in everybody else's Cheerios because you don't know how to be happy about your team winning. So I'll step off my high horse there. Fan how you want to fan, but the overly negative people 24/7, every chance they get to talk about their sports teams is just frustrating to me. And it's not like we're the Colorado Rockies or the Chicago White Sox or the insert worst team in the NBA or NFL in there. We cheer as a Wisconsin sports fan. That's what I am. I cheer for teams that consistently win. Now, do they win when the light's the brightest? Have they won the Super Bowl recently? No. Have they won the World Series? No. The Bucks last won the NBA championship in 2021. Haven't gone out of the first round in the last 3 years. I get that. But I celebrate when my teams do well, and I'm sad and I talk about when my teams don't do well. With that, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. And I'm going to start with Jordan Love. Can it just be NFL season already? Like, can we just start playing football games already? Because the topics and the conversations and the spinning and the overreacting about what we see in OTAs and what players say or didn't say is just very frustrating right now. And I apologize if you couldn't hear me when I had my hand like this, but it's just frustrating. We spent the last couple weeks debating on sports talk radio, on social media, on newspaper articles. Newspapers are still a thing, just harder to find. But anyways, we've been debating about, did Jordan Love take a step back in 2024? Why do we have to debate that? I don't get it. And because here's the problem with debating that. People only hear what they want to hear, and they only hear things that they feel helps push their narrative on the topic. Dan Orlovsky came out with a reason why he didn't feel Jordan Love took a step back, and it's automatically, well, look at his stats, look at his passing yards, look at his touchdown, look at his interceptions. Did Jordan Love take a step forward? No. But I wouldn't put it on him that Jordan Love took a step back. I wouldn't put that on him. The rest of the team, in my opinion, took a step back or two. They led the NFL in drops. Dontavion Wicks, Jaden Reed dropped the you-know-what out of the football. The best receiver when it comes to drops with the Packers last year was Christian Watson. The Packers had 30-something drops last year. If half of those are caught, Jordan Love's completion percentage jumps tremendously. There's a reason why the Packers took a wide receiver in the first round. There's a reason why the Packers took a wide receiver in the third round. There's a reason why they signed Hardman. There's a reason why they are looking at that wide receiver position to do more. Because all last year, the conversation was, do they actually need a wide receiver one? They have a deep wide receiving group. They have lots of different guys in the wide receiver room that can beat you in many different ways. Well, guess what? Nobody took that step forward and took control of the room, and we saw what we saw. And Matthew Golden was the first wide receiver taken in the first round by the Green Bay Packers since the George W. Bush administration. And they take Williams in the third round. And taking Golden and taking Williams is telling Dontavion Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, it is time to step it up or it's time to move on. And I like Dontavion Wicks. I think he's one of the best route runners the Packers have. He's always getting open. He needs to get more consistent in catching the football. And this is going into year 3, so maybe he takes that year 3 bump. Brian Gutekunst taking Golden and Williams was sending a message to that wide receiver room that we need to play better. Christian Watson starting the year likely on the PUP list. Probably won't be ready till midseason. Romeo Doubs is in the last year of his contract. So is Christian Watson. Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, Malik Heath all have 2 years left on their rookie contract. And Bo Melton, I believe, has 2 years left too. Maybe. I don't know exactly with Bo Melton. You got guys potentially leaving the wide receiver room, so you have to restock it. Plus, like I said, handful of guys, like a few of those guys did not take the leap that you were hoping for them to take. And that to me has more to do with Jordan Love taking a step back in 2024 than Jordan Love himself. Because Jordan Love dealt with a MCL injury. When he's finally starting to get healthy from that, he deals with a groin injury. And the quarterback's legs are important. Running the ball or throwing the ball, a quarterback's legs are very important. And if your lower body is hurt, you're not going to get the same zip. You're not going to get the same velocity. You're not going to be able to scramble as much. You're not going to be able to run as much. You're not going to be able to get under center as much. And it affects everything else that the quarterback's doing. But when you pile on 33 drops amongst the wide receiver / tight end group, it makes things even more difficult. Like I said, if half of those 33 drops were actually caught, drops, these are catchable balls. That's why they're counted as drops. If half of those are caught, we're looking at a completely different quarterback numbers for Jordan Love. Even missing 2.5 games, equivalent of 3 games with the Bears game, second Bears game, and I think it was the Jacksonville game he left early. I don't know. Whatever game he left early. Even with missing those games, if those players don't drop 33 catches, Jordan's Love numbers surpass what he did in 2023. Now, I don't think he took a step forward, but he definitely did not take the step back that most people are saying. And Pro Football Focus has him around 11th or 12th rated quarterback in the NFL. And I think that is a perfect spot for him rankings-wise going into the 2025 season. 2025 is now going to be, you have 2 years under his belt, made the playoffs 2 years in a row. It is time for Jordan Love to show if he is just a good quarterback or if he can take that next step and be a great quarterback. That's what I need to see from Jordan Love in 2025. And to do that, he needs to stay healthy and he needs his receivers and tight ends to help him make plays. The stretch of games in 2023 where he looked like an elite quarterback, over an 8 or 9 game stretch, he looked like a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the league in 2023. Those receivers are making plays for him left and right too. They didn't do that enough in 2024 either. So Jordan Love does need to play better, but the people around him need to play better too. Ultimately, that's why they took Matthew Golden. That's why they took Williams. And the last thing I want to mention on the Packers, and this is more for the NFL overall. I'm seeing posts on social media about how great Anthony Richardson is looking, or Daniel Jones is looking, or J.J. McCarthy is looking. Caleb Williams is looking so good or looking so bad, depending on who you ask. These are OTAs. They're wearing shorts and helmets. They're running against nobody. A lot of 7-on-7s and a lot of going up against air. Of course, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson are going to look great when there's no coverage and there's no pass rush. We don't need to overreact to what we're seeing in OTAs right now. If we're going to get too high on every drop by Romeo or every catch by Golden that we see, or every blown coverage that we see from whoever in the Packers secondary, we're going to be exhausted by August. But just enjoy getting the coverage that you're seeing. And like I said, I just need to see Jordan Love show if he can take that next step from good quarterback to great to / elite quarterback. Right now he's good. Jordan Love has shown that he is a good starting quarterback in the NFL with some inconsistencies. Now it's time for him to show that he's great. And that's for when September rolls around, not June 4th during their second week of voluntary OTAs. And Jair Alexander, is he going to play for the Packers this year? Is he not going to play for the Packers this year? I don't know. I think he will. I get some Milwaukee media people don't think he will. I think he's going to play for the Packers this year because I don't see any other environment at this point of the game where he's going to go and play. I think he plays at least one more year in Green Bay on a reworked contract, and that is ultimately what we see. And last thing to discuss, WWE Money in the Bank and WWE in general. And I've been giving this a lot of thought. Money in the Bank is this week, and Money in the Bank used to be a premium live event or pay-per-view that I used to really look forward to. But there's just a lack, and maybe it's a good thing. I am working at a Racine Raider game this week, but there's just a lack of excitement with Money in the Bank this year to me. The main event, or likely main event, or one of the matches on the card, Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus John Cena and Logan Paul. Both heavyweight championships are not going to be defended at Money in the Bank. And the Raw heavyweight championship will be defended the following Monday on Raw instead of at Money in the Bank. Gunther and Jey Uso should be at Money in the Bank, not some tag match with him and Cody versus John Cena and Logan Paul. Just my thoughts. The women's ladder match, to me, looks like the strongest match of the card. You have Alexa Bliss, Rhea Ripley, Naomi, the veterans of the women's division in WWE, and then you got the new faces, your Roxanne Perez, your Julia, your Stephanie Valcour. Future and present collide in that ring. And I think it'll end up being Naomi or Rhea Ripley that wins, but ultimately any of those women can win that match. And it's going to be an exciting match. And like I said, I think that's going to be the best match of the night. You had the women's Intercontinental Championship, the champion Lyra Valkyria defending her title against Becky Lynch. I think it's going to be a fun match, but I think it's going to be Becky Lynch getting the title. But this is one area where I'm very happy with what I'm seeing currently in WWE. Becky Lynch is making Lyra Valkyria look like $1 million, and she's holding her way up too. She's doing her part as well, but Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria look like it's going to be the match of the universe in this one. You have the heat, the back and forth, the personal shots, and like I said, this whole feud, Becky Lynch has made Valkyria look like $1 million, and as I said, Valkyria is more than holding her own in this feud as well. Now, the match I'm least looking forward to is the men's Money in the Bank match. You look at the participants in the Money in the Bank match, and there's very little star power. And just, to me, not a lot of fun. You have Solo Sikoa, LA Knight, Seth Rollins, Penta, Andrade, and El Grande Americano. So instead of having CM Punk, instead of having AJ Styles, we get El Grande Americano. A joke of a gimmick with Chad Gable that is, to me, is just stupid. I don't know who's going to win the men's Money in the Bank match. I think all signs to me points to Seth Rollins winning. Now, I'm going to contradict myself here. I also think this is where CM Punk would make sure that Seth Rollins doesn't win. But I just don't see a path for any of the other competitors in that match to be worthy and credible threats with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Solo Sikoa has started to get some juice back since Roman Reigns lost at WrestleMania, and Solo's kind of taken over the head of the head of the table gimmick kind of thing. I'm the tribal chief now. Very lackluster early on in that, and now he's starting to bring back some of the credibility that he had that he lost. LA Knight, he's not going to win. For some reason, Triple H and Road Dogg Jesse James I think they're scared to pull that trigger, to put LA Knight as the guy in the division. But you also got to look at it too, when you're looking at who's going to win, is who is going to truly, legitly, potentially take the championship away from either John Cena or Jey Uso. And none of them are taking the title away from John Cena, at least not till December. John Cena is not dropping that title until his last ever match. And then he'll lose likely to Cody Rhodes, or maybe somebody cashes that. I don't see any of the previous mentioned participants being the ones to knock off Jey Uso for the Raw Championship. But at the same time, you can still go after the Intercontinental Championship. You can still go after the U.S. Championship. There's nothing that says it has to be the Heavyweight Championship. It just says you get a title shot any place, anytime, anywhere when you cash in the briefcase. So maybe they have some other plan for this card. I like what I've seen from Penta in the ring. I'm a big Andrade fan. And Chad Gable has been great. But I just don't see any of them realistically having successful cash-ins. The only one that could is Seth Rollins. That's why I think Seth Rollins could win, because they have a perfect place on Monday Night Raw for Seth Rollins to cash in and take the championship. And now you have Jey Uso and Gunther and CM Punk all going after Seth Rollins, who has his Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman along with him. But that's going to do it tonight. Thank you for watching. For those watching the live show on X, Facebook, and YouTube, podcast again will be available tomorrow morning. Hope you have a great rest of your night. This has been Talking Sports with Evan.